What's up, booktube? It is Monty, and today I am back again once again with another video, and today I am starting a reading vlog for Portrait of a Thief by Grace Lee. I'm gonna throw up a picture over here on this side because it's on my Kindle. It's an e-arc. We're gonna do this. So I'm starting this on Christmas Eve. This book comes out, I don't even know when. Let's go and look at our good friend Goodreads. This book is out April 5th, I believe is what that was just telling me. This is bad, but April for sure. So clearly I am a couple months ahead of the curve here. So if you're watching this, congratulations. I'm probably going to throw this up early for my patrons. This is one of my most anticipated releases of 2022. And I'm still trying, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm still making the attempt to hit my official Goodreads goal for 2021. And so why not sneak this in while I can? Because this is the story of a group of Chinese Americans who are stealing Chinese art from museums. And I think that's just wonderful. It sounds like a great time. I remember seeing the cover reveal for this and I was like, I need to email and ask for an arc. And then I was looking at my NetGalley score and I was like, I don't know with my NetGalley score if I'm going to get this. So shout out to Tiny Reparations Books for trusting in me, because without you this video would not be possible at the time that I'm filming this. So I've started this already. I've read about 4%, which is like the entirety of the first chapter and a couple of pages into the second chapter. So I know already that we have a revolving host of perspective characters. The book starts off with Will Chen, who was I think he is a senior at Harvard University who was working part-time at the Sackler Museum when one of the robberies occurred. So based on his chapter, I don't believe that Will was in the originally intended group of people who were out here robbing and thieving, but he was present at the museum. He is Chinese American. I think he's going to get pulled in some kind of way. And then the second chapter was from Alex, who was a junior at MIT before she got a job offer at Google. And I feel like she dropped out of MIT to go work for Google because her parents were struggling and the salary was just something that she couldn't really turn down. And at the point where I am, Will and Alex know one another because they used to sort of date and they kept in contact. And it looks as though Will is going to use Alex and her like software engineering abilities to try and figure out who robbed the Sackler Museum and maybe join in. I don't know. I'm excited for it though. So far I'm having a wonderful time. The writing style is something that I think is going to be enjoyable to read. I don't have any complaints. I don't have any complaints at all. But again, it's only been like 4%. And a lot of the 4% was, the kind of like the table of contents and the first chapter that was only a handful of pages. So there hasn't been a whole lot of content to actually judge. But what I have seen, I am on board with. And I'm foreseeing that this might be a 5-star read, which love that for me, but I will of course keep you all posted. My plan for this is to read a little bit more today. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll see when I see you. Read 25% of this book, so let's talk about it. So basically what we have going on here is a complicated web, and you guys know that I love me a complicated web. So like I said, the book started off with the Sackler Museum in Boston getting robbed, which one of the robbers pressed a note into our young man Will's hand, and he called up his friend Alex. I say friend, they went on 2 Tinder dates, but apparently they have clearly kept in touch if he was able to call her up 3 years later while she was doing her job at Google, living her best software engineer life. But what I didn't know is that he also placed some other phone calls, one to his friend Daniel, who is the son of an FBI agent, and his sister Irene, Irene is his sister, who is a sophomore. She has to be a sophomore. No, because he's in his senior year now. She's a junior at Duke, who called her friend Lily, who was also her roommate, also a junior at Duke. So these are our 5 players. They all got on board a plane to Beijing, where they were asked by the CEO of the China Poly Company to go out and steal these 5 zodiac heads from various museums in the United States and Europe. Love to see it. We got a little excursion. We got to see them do their first like mini heist. I say mini heist because I don't like it was a mini heist. Like let's not. So where I'm at now, they're out of Beijing. They're all back home in their respective locations, and they are planning the first actual heist that they are going to do, which they're going to do at the Swedish Royal Palace Museum, the Swedish Palace Museum. Something it's in Sweden. Okay, that's where they're going. Again, to get these Chinese figureheads that were looted from the old Summer Palace. I'm assuming that's where it was from, but clearly it was looted from China. But the rest of the 7 Zodiac heads are housed at the old Summer Palace Museum, which is where they did their mini heist. Where the CEO of the China Poly Company was like totally in on it and was like, sure, because Will is clearly the driving force behind all of this. He is our resident art historian. He feels like this deep connection to the art. He feels like it is justice to go out and, take these things back and return them to China. The rest of the group is really in it for the promised $50 million because clearly $10 million a pop. All you got to do is a little light art theft. That seems to be something that they are very interested in. So for me, I get it. I understand the money motivations. I understand Will's motivation. I think that all of our characters are really great. There is some tension between Alex and Will's sister Irene that I think is just, I am eating it up. I am eating it up. Thank you very much. And I'm just having a wonderful time. A wonderful time. Is this because I wanted to have a wonderful time? Maybe. I do think that the mindset that you bring into a book does impact it to some degree, but I have also gone into a lot of books this year really wanting to have a good time and not received that. So I'm having a wonderful time. I think a lot of that is the book, but I do think that I'm bringing something to it. I think that what I am enjoying the most is I am enjoying having a heist story where it's not in a fantasy world. I don't know when publishing decided that all of the heist stories needed to be in a fantastical setting, but I feel like that's what a lot of books are. I'm sure that if I looked hard and, high and low or whatever, I could find some heist stories that weren't set in a fantasy or set in like a low fantasy where like magic isn't that important. But I think that it's just really refreshing to see people trying to like dodge regular security. And I think that it's also just really nice because these are 5 people who are not like actual criminals. Like these are just intelligent people who are trying to become criminals. And so I think that seeing them come up with like, okay, well, what are we going to do about this, and this? And they're like, oh, fuck, yeah, like that's a thing. I'm having a wonderful time, but even that isn't at the forefront of the story. So much of the story is wrapped up in what it means to be a member of the Chinese diaspora. And all 5 of the different people have sort of a different relationship with being in the diaspora. They feel it differently. Like Lily, whose parents left, who fled the Cultural Revolution, and whose like grandparents died in China, whose parents never took her back to visit there. But then you have Irene, Daniel, and Will, who are all close friends, who have been back to China several times. And for them, it doesn't even feel like going back to China. It's like going home. So like all of them are approaching it differently. And then you have Alex, who is like the least related to the other 4 individuals because Will, Daniel, and Irene grew up with one another, and they had that close friendship for years and years and years. And then you have Irene and Lily, who are roommates, and again have had a deeper connection for years and years and years. And then Alex is kind of like the outsider that they do not trust, and or at least Irene doesn't trust her, and she doesn't really think that Alex is going to bring anything to the group. So it's really an interesting story in terms of like character dynamics that is set against the backdrop of a heist. I mean, the heist is very much at the forefront. Like I said, we start off with a museum getting burglared, even on the trip to Beijing where they're proposed the thing, they do a little mini heist. And so far, the coming back from Beijing has all been them trying to research the best way to pull all of these things off. So like the heist is still very much a core component of the story, But I would highly encourage you to take note of the fact that the blurb also mentions, like, in the spirit of the farewell and what it means to be a member of the Chinese diaspora and like all of that, because that too is just as important. So it's not like a fun crime novel. It is very much a, I don't know, it's there's a lot going on here, and I think that Grace D. Lee is doing a wonderful job of so far of moving all of the pieces into places where they are going to be the most impactful, which I appreciate. I think that when I saw that the book was under 400 pages, I did get a little bit nervous, particularly when I found out that they were going to do 5 heists. And I'm still not sure how we're going to do 5 heists, but I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that it's going to go well, because as of right now, I think that I would happily give this 5 out of 5 stars. At this point, I do think it's going to make my best of 2021 list and rankings, because it's just, I'm having such a good time. It's giving me everything that I wanted it to give, but more. So I'm gonna shut up now because I need to go do some laundry and take care of the rest of my day. So I'll check back in once I have read some more. I'm going to try and make this quick because I need to leave to make it to my showing of Spider-Man very shortly, but I have made it to the 75% mark, roughly, like 72%, whatever. I wanted to come in before I finished it so I could give you an overall update, because I read a lot. I did some reading sprints Christmas evening, and I read a lot of it. So I'm having a wonderful time. The book definitely addresses the fact that these are a bunch of college, regular people going about and doing the heisting, right? Like, these are people who are not really qualified to do what they are setting out to do. And I'm really appreciating how not only the book is addressing that, but how the characters themselves are coming together and the friction that has been there. Like, before, there was this friction between Irene and Alex, but now Irene and her brother Will, there's also some friction there. And it's just, it's so good. Like, yes, the topic of being, in the Chinese diaspora has been peppered throughout the book. I've highlighted numerous passages that have really dealt with that, and I do think that while the heist is there, I do think that the overall message of the book is definitely a introspective look at what it means to be in the diaspora and how it's not the same universally, even within the diaspora. So I do appreciate that. If you know anything about me, then you know what I loved so much about the Greenbone saga, particularly Jade War, was the discussion about the Kekanese diaspora, because I don't really feel like these are fantasy, yes, but I think that the sort of harsh look at what it meant for people of the Kekanese diaspora, how it meant, like, seeing the culture evolve and change over the course of the entire series is about like 50 years or so, like, seeing that change over the life of these characters and the city around them, like, that was great. And so seeing a more, well, obviously a realistic depiction, because there's no fantasy elements here, is also something that I'm eating up. I also am just like a fan of the way that Grace Lee is writing the sentences. I think that they are poetic in a way that isn't pretentious, and I don't think that they were written in a way that was trying to be poetic or beautiful. They just kind of, I don't want to say lucked into it, because there's clearly a skill here, but again, it's not like this overwrought where trying to do the thing. It's just, there's an effortless ease about it that I appreciate, that I like. So far I'm having a wonderful time. I'm excited to see how this is going to wrap up, because I was a little nervous when I got to the 30% mark. I think it was like around the 45% mark or so, where we were getting the first heist and they were supposed to do 5 of them. And I was like, the book isn't particularly long, so I was a little bit nervous. And seeing where we are now, I'm no longer fretting about that, let's say. Whatever way this ends up going, I think I will be okay with, I'll be happy with. And overall, like, I think this is still going to be a full 5 stars, which makes me very happy to sneak in another 5-star read before the year is over. But like I said, I don't think I said this here, but I think I did on maybe Twitter, maybe my live sprints. I hope you have this on hold at your library. Put it on a wish list. Like, it's so good. Again, it comes out April 5th. It's a wonderful ride. Maybe this wasn't the world's most exciting vlog, but I finished Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee, out on April 5th, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This book gave me everything that I wanted it to give me. We had thrills of the heist. We had the thrills of them almost getting caught in the heist. And just because this book comes out in like April, I don't want to spoil everything in this vlog, but we did get to see a resolution to the story that I thought it was good. It did not break my suspension of disbelief in the way that this could have. And so I'm okay with it. I'm okay with how the book ended and the resolution that we got and the arcs that all of the characters went on. This, it's hard for me to talk about this book because it does so many things that I like. We had, wealthy, well, they weren't super wealthy, but we did have, some wealthy characters being messy, doing things, rich people doing crime isn't always the best, but not everybody in this was rich. That was also part of the motivating factor. It was like, the idea of them committing these heists and getting $10 million a piece, it meant something. It wasn't like, oh, that's like fun money. Like, even the characters who had more money than other characters were still just as, that was still a motivating factor for them. And the fact that they were all trying to balance, what if we get caught, with their futures, and, is the $10 million worth it, at the same time as them navigating what it meant to be in the diaspora and what it meant to each of the 5 characters individually, because not all of them were looking at it in the quite same way, because you had Daniel, who was born in China, and so there was a discussion of him giving up his Chinese citizenship and becoming an American citizen to make his life easier when it came to applying to colleges. And so all of these things that were mixed into these 5 people coming together to rob the bank. Wow, a bank? They were definitely not robbing banks, child. They were stealing, stolen art. So is it wrong? Is it wrong to steal what was been stolen? I don't know. I personally would not have been not invested, but I would not have been, the person they would call up to commit these robberies. No, thank you. But were they morally wrong? I don't know. And I think that the book also does a really good job of tackling that question, because I think that there are, over the course of the novel, you can kind of see some of the thought processes change with that, in terms of who thinks what they're doing is morally right and who is just like, why not? It's a really interesting story. So I think that this is going to be one of the best books of next year for sure. It's definitely going to make its way onto my best books of 2021 list, because I read it this year. So part of me does feel a little bad about that, because now this is the second time in a row where I've been putting on, books that nobody can read yet onto my best of the year list. But there is just, it's undeniable. And I'm not going to try and play as though it's not one of my best books of the year, because it is. I think that, and I think it's also more impactful because of how, I don't want to say how short, because it is 350-ish pages according to Goodreads. So it's a decent length. But I think that based on the story that we were projected to get, I could see how this could have played out longer. And I think that the brevity of it was actually one of the times that it was masterful. And while I would have loved to spend more time with the characters, I think that the narrative told here was very tight and very clean. And it was so good. It was just so good. So this wasn't the world's, most aesthetic vlog. It wasn't the world's best reading vlog situation, but I hope that you guys had a good time watching this. I hope you had a good time hearing my thoughts and opinions on this. And I do hope that, for the patrons, y'all are getting this however many months early. So your library holds, your pre-orders are in. But for the people who are getting to watch this closer to the actual release date of the book, I do hope that this book is something that is on your radar. I don't know what the marketing push is going to look like closer to the release date of this, but it is a book I think you should have an eye on, because I think that it delivers. And in terms of debuts, this is wonderful. So thanks for watching. If you've made it to the end of this video, you can go ahead and drop this emoji down there in the comment section. But I will see all of you again soon with another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.